Evening, folks. How you all doing? Kilt-Man here with a can of beer because he has no whiskey left. Oops a daisy there, Kilt-Man. Should have planned ahead. Anyway, hope you're all doing well. It's windy, wet and freezing outside. Yep, so I've got a nice little fire cooking over here. Yeah. So, perfect for telling spooky stories. And I've got a spooky one for you today. Oh yes. Those of you who watched my little zombie festival for Lucio Fulci movies a few weeks ago may remember I did make passing reference to a film that came before Lucio's, gore extravaganzas, and kind of set the mould for the cannibalistic zombie movies that would come, and now we are still getting, and TV shows and all sorts of weirdness. Zombies have taken over the world. Of course, this was all set in motion by Jorge Romero back in 1969 with Night of the Living Dead, his black and white independent movie, an absolute classic. And of course, this influenced many, many more movies. So in 1974, armed with colour, armed with lots of locations, armed with a real talent for scaring the bejesus out of his audiences, came Spanish director Jorge Grau, who, with a lot of Italian co-financing, came up with it. So you got a Spanish-Italian co-production with the crazy title of The Living Dead at the Manchester Morgue. This is the soundtrack to it playing right now. And that's his voice. Jorge Grau, that's him right now. He had a real hand, or shall we say a vocal cord, in the sound design of his movie. And it's really, really impressive stuff. Electronic, experimental, and rumoured to be the first horror movie with a full stereo soundtrack. This is back in 1974. Get the airs right, Kilt-Man. See, with whiskey I don't fall apart. With lager, I'm all over the show. So, with that in mind, So yeah, The Living Dead at Manchester Morgue has many titles. It was also known as simply The Living Dead. Somewhat more abstract titles, Don't Open the Window, The Breakfast at the Manchester Morgue, or the best one, Let Sleeping Corpses Lie. Awesome. Now, it's an ecological sort of warning movie, which is quite clever for its time as well. So it takes in a few ideas from other movies as well. Namely, the film Phase 4 about the ants, which have been irradiated by ultrasound and kind of craziness, which makes them more voracious. And the idea behind this is that the Department of Agriculture, or the Ministry of Agriculture, have designed this new pesticide to clean up the farmlands of arable England. It takes the form of an ultrasound sonic device on a tractor, spinning round, oscillating and driving insects and parasites into bizarre frenzies of self-destruction. But it has a rather uncanny side effect. It regenerates or revives the recently deceased. Oh dear. Not the kind of thing you want to happen, is it? But with our government in the UK, they just brush it under the carpet. No. Blame the NHS. Oh, yes. So, into this maelstrom comes hippie, occult and antique dealer George, played by Ray Lovelock, who's brilliant. And for those in the UK watching this, he's a dead ringer for Noel Edmonds. And he looks really super cool as well. And you see him leave his shop in Manchester, which genuinely is Manchester, and bombs it out. And he's heading towards Windermere in the Lake District. Now, so it's set around the Lake District. It's not filmed there, it's filmed in the Peak District. Somewhat the other way. But there's still idyllic rural locations, and the environment is lush and green and beautiful. The point is made about pollution back in the city, dust everywhere, exhaust fumes everywhere, almost zombified, people stuck at traffic jams, the occasional businessman with an oxygen a mask on his face, like they have in Tokyo to avoid all the fumes. And George bombs it on his motorbike, no helmet, 1974, bombs it out the city into countryside where it's all beautiful and safe. Not for long. Along the way, he's going to be shunted when he's parked at a garage. A girl reverses her car into his bike, knocks it over, does some damage. And this is Edna, played by the absolutely gorgeous Christine Galbo. The cast are pretty much all Italian, Latin, Mediterranean, European, but they've all been drafted over here, and with all like dubbed accents. And poor George has got a really sort of tragic Cockney accent, but I say tragic, it actually suits his character. I'm just going to turn that down a wee bit. And let's go on to another. This is the music when George leaves Manchester on his bike, bombing it through the streets. So Edna knocks his bike over. His bike won't be fixed for a few days, so he's going to have to stay. He can't get to the house in Windermere where his friends are waiting, the house they're going to be doing up. So he's stuck there. She's visiting her sister, who lives in another house somewhere around Windermere. And, their sister is a recovering drug addict. She's still shooting up. Her husband, she suspects that her husband and her sister want to put her in some kind of home or some kind of clinic. So she's all agitated. So these two are going to end up in this sort of crazy mixture of disparate people with disparate problems in a lovely countryside. And this strange whirring noise driving insects crazy and making deadheads arrive from out of their graves. And the first one that we're going to encounter is Guthrie the Loon. Now this guy is genuinely frightening to look at. We're told that he was he drowned, he was a tramp, a vagrant, and he drowned himself in the river. He has a noose round his neck, hanging loosely. A loose noose. About this hoose. And he goes for Edna, while George is busy trying to find directions to her sister's house. They're both in her Mini, and they've been bombing around these country lanes. It looks amazing. They're going at some pelt around these little windy country lanes, overtaking lorries, and it's kind of devil may care, reckless stuff. Mad Max would be proud. And so while he's away getting directions, this strange figure shambles after her. And she's having a ciggy, and he goes for it. She manages to escape, but when she gets help, this figure's gone. But she describes him. That sounds like Guthrie the Loon, but it can't be, because he died 2 days ago. He drowned himself in the river. And she goes, well, you look very wet. Like he'd come out of the river. So it's all kind of freakish. Let's see once again. Now, so Guthrie is going to go and kill somebody else, and he's going to kill the sister. He's going to kill her sister's husband, Martin, and the police will get involved in this. And this film is famous for several things. It's notorious gore effects. It's fabulous location work. It's ferocious anti-right-wing stance. It hates the police. It genuinely hates the police. The police embodied by a great actor, Arthur Kennedy, who plays Sergeant McCormack, who's this Irish, absolute fucking fundamental Christian bastard from beyond hell. This guy takes one look at these hippies who've arrived in town and hates them, and the poor drug addicted sister, he's blaming her. He's all over it. Yeah, look at these pictures your husband took. Her husband was a photographer, and there's some weird nude shots of her. What are these about then? And we found this, and there's a drug injecting paraphernalia. And she's in shock because she witnessed the murder. She was also attacked by this Guthrie, the zombified loon. And this guy's a right twat to And of course, these two strangers who've got nothing to do with it, and clearly have got nothing to do with it. They weren't even there on the scene. Doesn't care about that. He hates George. Look, with your long hair and your beard and your romance and your sex and your vile filth and your smoking. Straight away, you are fucking guilty, and I'm going to have you. Oh, if only I could have my way and change the law. And I'm not making any exaggeration. That is exactly how he is. He's a complete bastard. And of course, George will make the connection between the fact that, hang on, murders and this strange machine, because he's already seen it. When he asked for directions, he found the farmer in his field with these two guys from the Ministry of Agriculture. And straight away, he doesn't like that because you're messing with nature. He says to the farmer, you should keep your bugs and your insects and your parasites. That's what nature gave you. So don't be messing with it. On a little trip to the hospital, they also discover that newborn babies are developing a violent tendency. They're going for the staff, the nurses, scratching them and that, and they can't explain why. Over the course of the film, it'll become quite apparent, George will work it out, that this ultrasound not only affects the lower class nervous systems of insects, but those of the recently dead and those of the recently born, because they're not fully active, fully evolved nervous systems. It's a leap of logic there, but it works in the fundamental aspects of the storytelling. And plenty of carnage ensues. Poor George and Edna are forever going to be victimised by Sergeant McCormick and his bobbies on the beat. They're going to go to the church to try to prove, because George still wants to prove at this point that Guthrie the Loon is dead. So they go to the churchyard to find his body. They knock around trying to find the caretaker or a church warden. Don't find anyone. But they get into the crypt anyway, and there's a few caskets there. Some old lady, some other man. Oh, Guthrie. Push it over. It's empty. What a surprise. Guthrie then appears, because he's already chowed down on the caretaker, whose body they find in a scene very reminiscent of Barbara in Night of the Living Dead walking up the stairs and finding a corpse on the landing. They see blood dripping down the caskets and the wall, climb up the steps, and there's a body hanging, just laid out there, all bloodied and gory. Let's head down again. Again, this is the freakish soundtrack by Giuliano Sorgini. Very experimental, very freakish. It's great though. And a lot of synth involved in it as well. A lot of early synth going on in here. Oscillations and weird drones and tones. Very creepy. So they are attacked in the crypt by Guthrie, and George now realises, shit, she wasn't lying. This guy's come back from the grave. Stabs him, runs him through with some kind of pick, and does nothing for him. Stabs him again. They try to escape. Guthrie then realises, hang on, there's other corpses here, and in a great moment, which no other zombie film ever seems to do. And I'll be honest, it doesn't make a great deal of sense here, but it's a nice wacky scene anyway. He pushes the caskets away, and with the blood dripping down the wall from the guy he just chowed down on, he then smears blood on the eyelids of the two cadavers that are there. And then they rise up and join him to attack these. And it is a really, really great scene. It's very, very tense. And you're like, how the hell is he doing that? George comes up with the idea that, maybe the blood awakens the new ones, and he can pass the sort of, he's already got this sort of curse to be reborn, and he can pass it on via the blood of the living, onto their eyes, and bingo, they'll join the ranks of the dead. So they get outside, and McCormick has had a copper chasing these people, pursuing them, and he's found their car parked outside the cemetery. This is PC Craig, and he's great. and he gets it. He joins them, and they go, "Get inside, man!" They get inside the chairs. Get inside! They're dead. Because there's now 3 of them. So he drops his radio behind, and they've got into it's a sealed room. There's only one way in, one way out. But the zombies in this are coordinated, and they use tools far more than Romero's zombies ever did. They pick up a bloody big stone, cross from a gravestone, and start smacking the door. Boosh, boosh, boosh. PC Craig realises that I left my radio because he's already helped. When he escaped from Guthrie, they had to go up some steps, go through a crack and into an open grave. And Craig pulled Edna out and they got to safety. But in so doing, he dropped his radio. So he thinks, okay, look, I'm going to make a break for it. I'm going to go get the radio, get in the car, and I'm going to get help. Just cover me. They found a shotgun on the wall, which they've used to blast these zombies, which just takes them down, and they get up again. And even a shot to the head doesn't faze them. It's absconding with all the rules, isn't it, of zombies? So he makes a break for it. Doesn't get very far. That fucking tombstone that he picked up, he fucking lashes at him. Hits him in the back, shreds his leg, and he drops to the deck, and he's trying to crawl for his radio. And in the film's most infamous sequence, the zombies pounce on him, just put their hands into his guts. His guts come out, they start chowing down. An eyeball is eaten. Famously, everyone thinks the scene is cut because you see the aged female zombie chowing down on his eyeball, and then she reaches down to the other eyeball. So you think, and you see the bloody socket where the first one was, and you think that this heart's been cut out. No, the film's been uncut for a long, long time, and they never actually filmed that sequence. It just didn't happen. And have a guess who did the effects for this movie. Those of you who've been paying attention to my Lucio Fulci movie reviews will know I've got a thing about a certain guy doing effects for these movies. I say a certain guy, there's two guys. One, Gianetto De Rossi, and his alter ego, Gino De Rossi. Both of whom do fantastic gore effects. Both of whom have worked on a lot of these films, sometimes together, but one is better than the other. And hey, we're in luck, because in The Living Dead at Manchester Morgue, it's Gianetto De Rossi, the godfather of gore, who worked on it and did the effects. And his effects are fabulous. Albeit a bit more primitive than what you see in the likes of Zombie Flesh Eaters and The Beyond and House by the Cemetery. A little bit, of a less convincing, but still very, very good and very, very nasty. So, poor old Craig's been disemboweled, he's chowed down. The zombies then break in to poor George and Edna. George then manages to set fire to him, throws a lamp across the floor, and they go up. So he can kill them by burning them. Then they escape. Of course, what's going to happen? Sergeant McCormick's going to find poor Craig. Wait till I get my hands on those bastards. And he's just hell-bent on getting these now. He's not going to listen to reason. There's no way you can tell him it's the zombies. He's not going to fall for any of that kind of shit. Especially if you've got long hair and a beard. No way. And you fornicate. And smoke cigarettes, and drink. So in the meantime, Edna's sister's been whisked off to the hospital and she's in a fucking straitjacket and she's chained to the bed. George, hang on. George will get arrested. Edna goes back to the house to try to warn Sergeant McCormick, goes back to her sister's house. And the copper who was on guard there has been eaten. She then runs into George, tries to explain what's happening. He drives her to a gas station somewhere and says, just look after her, I'll be back in 5 minutes. Gets some gasoline, drives back to the sister's house because he wants to find the zombie that's done it and burn that zombie. So, but when he gets there, the police have entrapped him. They've been waiting for him. So he's arrested and he gets carted off to the police station. He gets a slap around the chops. He gets threatened. They even give him a false statement. Just sign this and make things a lot easier on you. What are they trying to say about British police tactics? You know, honestly, it's really hardline, ultra right wing, pure fascist. And Jorge Grau, the director, was Spanish, and he knew a bit about oppression and a fascist dictatorship. So maybe that's where that came from. Not a great stretch, not hard to believe that he brought it into his movie. So anyway, George then escapes the police station, and where does he go to after that? I can't remember. Where does he go after that? He bombs it to the to pick up Edna, then gets told, oh no, an ambulance came because she had a big fit, all this fucking panic and things she's seen, and she's been whisked off to the hospital. He knows that that's where the bodies of the husband, her sister's husband, who was killed by Guthrie and is going to come back as a fucking zombie because he's the one that killed the copper who was there at the house. That's where the body's been taken. So shit, he bombs off up there. He nicks a police car and bombs off up there. The police in hot pursuit. In the meantime, Martin, who was the husband of her sister, has awakened and chowed down on the mortuary attendant, and then awoken other zombies in there too, who've all got stitch markings from autopsies. And they then ransack the hospital. They kill the bickering telephonist who's gabbing about a movie she didn't want to see, starring someone she doesn't even like. And the zombies come in, famously reach down her top, rip her breast off. Lots of stringy latex splits and blood everywhere. Reach down her dress and just pull guts out of it. Horrible stuff. The poor doctor who got George to help him with the newborn babies and was going, I wonder why they attack. There's something wrong with them. And what do you think it could be? He's asking a fucking total stranger, someone who's just arrived, as a visitor. And could you help with this woman? A nurse has been fucking savaged by a baby. Just help this woman here. And he's like, hang on a minute, I'm a fucking visitor. But yeah, he gets an axe to his head in a great, and blood just gushes down his face. And the zombies are then gonna get the sister. The sister then goes and attacks Edna. Edna manages to fight her off. Other zombies converge on her. George gets there in the nick of time, and just when he thinks, he sets fire to the room, so he kills all these bleeding zombies. And then of course Edna looks at him, and she's got these fabulous contact lenses in, which mark her out as one of the undead. So he pushes her back into the flames, so she burns. He's now burnt all the evidence that there were bloody zombies around. And then as he turns around, McCormick's there, Sergeant McCormick, bang, 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 blasts him away. Kills George. Our hero has been shot dead. McCormick stands over him and says, great line, because he's been saying to him, like, look, why don't you listen to me? It was their corpses, I didn't do it, it's their corpses. He's going, oh yeah, so stories of the dead coming back to life. You heathen, hippie shit. And he stands over George's body and says, like, I wish the dead could come back to life, you bastard, because then I can kill you again. Isn't he a complete prize twat? So, case closed, it's all wrapped up. They drive past the field where the oscillating scientific agricultural ultrasound machine's whirring around again, and now they've increased the range. So now it can cover hundreds of fields for miles. So of course the contagion is going to spread. There'll be bodies popping up all over the show. Sergeant McCormick then goes back to the hotel. He goes, in the village, I'll go to the hotel. I'll book the room in a hotel. I just want to get my head down and forget this entire mess. And as he goes into his room, George is behind him. And George is now a zombie. And he's come back, and he just puts the stranglehold on him. And the sergeant's blasting away. George kills him. And then the film ends with the whirring sound of this machine. So we know it's all coming to an apocalyptic closure. Now, this film is genuinely a classic. Let's hear more of the soundtrack here. Because The photography is phenomenal. The locations are brilliant. They even have Little John's grave is in there as well. You know, Robin Hood. You know, and all this. Genuine locations. So it beats a lot of Hollywood output at the time, and certainly all the decades we've had of Hammer movies set in like, you know, Bray House and in, you know, the same forest we saw every time. This goes from place to place, and it's genuinely visually arresting. It's lots of action to it. The zombies are terrifying to look at, especially Guthrie the Loon. My God, the way he lurches after Edna, she just sees him in the distance, this figure just lurching about, and then he turns around and we see his eyes from a distance she can't tell. And then she gets, you know, well, he's a bit creepy, begins to back off, goes back towards her car, and he begins to lurch faster and faster, and it's a really horrible, jerky sort of move, but at speed. And he's going for it, and you hear the sound from rasping dead lungs, air coming out of these dead lungs, and it's genuinely frightening. They're all frightening. When Martin comes back, he has his viciously clawed face and his bulbous eyes. When he attacks Edna, when she goes back to the house, her sister's house, and she's looking around, and there's mist swirling everywhere, and there's these police cars, and there's a severed hand hanging off the window of the police Jeep, police Range Rover. And as she's like sort of standing there stunned, she turns around, you hear this, she turns around, and looming out of the fog is Martin, arms outstretched, his clawed face, eyes on stalks. Fabulous stuff. The zombie attacks and the gore are tremendous. And the acting is great across the board. Ray Lovelock and Christine Galbo, they're not friends to begin with, they're reluctantly put together, and they bicker and they distrust each other. And over the course of the movie, and the things that happen to them, in a very short space of time, they very believably form a bond of attachment and a desperation, really. But you really believe they have feelings for each other. Not romantic, just like look, I've got you and you've got me. No one else is going to look out for us. They stick together. And it's great to see George's continual, look, I don't want to be here. I could just bug out altogether, but I'm going to come after Edna. I want to make sure she's okay. And there's a few great touching scenes where she's like sort of in shock, and he's going like, you know, she's sitting in the car, and he's like, look, Edna, look, it's going to be okay. And this beautiful music plays in the background, because although you're hearing all this weirdness here, there is some lovely weird stuff, lovely weird. You know, listen to this one. And you get this definite sort of bond between them, and it pays off. So come the end, when, you know, he's discovered she's become one of them, and he throws her back into the flames, and she's like reaching out for him, and it's a sort of a plea, but you know, she'll just tear him apart if she can get hold of him. It's touching. And then, you know, the look on his face is like, shit, you know, it's all got so horribly wrong. It's a great film. I was present in a video library back in about 1985 when the police stormed in and ransacked all the shelves, and they were looking for copies. The video nasties were the full craze at the time, but 84, it'd be 84, and they were banned, they'd been removed, but the police got wind of this particular movie. John Anderton, who was a police chief constable of Manchester Metropolitan Police, who was a staunch Christian, he's famous for being hardline and a bit of an oddball. He put the word out that this film was massively anti-police, and it was a nasty as well. So get it off the shelves, get it out of circulation. And I was there when the police came in, and they scanned the shelves trying to find this title. I'd already seen it. I already knew the uproar about it. I'd be 13 years old maybe at the time. But I knew what it was all about. And they found it. They found the VHS copy and the Betamax copy. Just said, we're removing this. You're not getting them back. Walked out. The film... You see, now the film wasn't officially banned. Although it did make the list. It's kind of weird, Hannah, but it's because of John Anderton and this stance that the police took, because this film had such a vocal attack upon right-wing police tactics. And it is, when you watch the film, they are overblown caricatures. Arthur Kennedy's Sergeant McCall. How much power does a fucking sergeant have? This guy, he's like Hitler. He's got hundreds of coppers at his disposal. His disposal. He's only a sergeant. He's a fucking sergeant. He's got an automatic as well. Holy shit. But The Living Dead at the Manchester Morgue. It's creepy. It's got great characters. It's got a great sense of violence and gore, but it's got an unusual story to it as well. It gives a reason why the zombies are coming back. It's ridiculous. The way the zombie can bring other ones back by using some kind of blood ritual. It's clever. It's simple. It's clever. It's visually astonishing. And this soundtrack, my God, it is so creepy, so unearthly, very sci-fi in its sort of power. But hey, The Living Dead at the Manchester Morgue. It's available, fully uncut on Blu-ray. The soundtrack is also available, or at least it was. That was quite rare, to be honest, so you might not be able to get that now. But I give it a massive thumbs up. It's one of the scariest zombie films out there, and I return to it a lot. They went even gorier afterwards, but this is like a neat little stepping stone from George Romero's almost sedate, compared to this, black and white fable, Night of the Living Dead. Then you get this, which is glorious Technicolor, gore aplenty, very, very violent, and then you go on to the excesses of Lucio Fulci and George Romero's later movies, Dawn of the Dead and Day of the Dead, and so on and so on. So I'm going to say, folks, watch out for deadheads. Watch out for vagrants who are languishing by creepy rivers in the countryside. Don't go in the fucking countryside, in fact, because it's dangerous out there. Do not trust the Ministry of Agriculture. And don't trust the police either. So in the meantime, folks, stay safe. Keep it real. Keep it Celtic, if you can. And I'm going to see y'all